Capulet Fest, a 3-day festival to be held June 28th through 30th, 2024 at the Speedway in Thompson, Connecticut, headlined by August Burns Red, Skillet, and Nothing More. Sounds good, right?
A 3-day outdoor music festival at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, but it was abruptly moved to the indoor Webster Theater in Hartford, and the third and final day was canceled.
Negative concerns on social media after the venue change was announced.
We did attempt to talk with the organizer of the event, to which they said they had no comment.
After the abrupt change, several bands dropped out, some telling fans there was not room for them anymore. According to an iTeam source, Vega had failed to pay several companies involved in the production. Not clear if refunds will be given out.
Hearing and speculating online as to what all went down, but yeah, we couldn't make the production work.
So Capulet Fest happened. Kind of. Over a week ago. Why still talk about it? Because we now have a bit of inside information from someone who performed at the festival on Saturday. Sit tight, I'll try to be brief and cover what we know. Having been over a week since everything happened, there are still refunds owed that I highly doubt will ever get paid, an attorney general really upset over how many people got ripped off, and the ghost of a festival organization and runners who have said, we fought obstacle after obstacle, we became a target, we became hated even when we were doing our best to save something and give you the best show possible. No one sees the sacrifice. All they do is judge. We did everything we could. We hope you had fun. We did our best. Thank you to everyone who came out and had a blast. We hope you enjoyed the meet and greets. We hope you enjoyed the music. Goodbye. It's the passive-aggressive attitude and inability to take accountability while also demanding attention for the hard work they put in that did not matter as much because it all fell through. All that is a rough look for a company and a brand. Let's go back a few weeks. Lineup was announced and tickets were being sold. Things were going as planned. That's when the first speed bump came when the Thompson Speedway said to the public, Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park would like to confirm that the Capulet Fest is no longer happening at our facility. All additional details about the future of the event will be coming directly from Capulet. Thompson is not affiliated, associated, authorized, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with Capulet Fest or Capulet Entertainment. The Speedway wanting nothing to do with the scam they saw coming. That's when the panic button was hit, and the venue was downsized to the Webster Theater in Hartford, roughly 90% smaller than the previous venue with a 1,500 attendance cap. That's not a festival venue, especially for 3 days, and definitely not to house the listed lineup. This is when some bands started dropping off the lineup fast. Nothing More made a public statement about this, saying, despite our best efforts, we unfortunately won't be playing this show. Earlier today, we were sent a proposed statement from the festival that was a blatant attempt to minimize their responsibility for the situation, and even more egregious than that, it offered no solutions for refunds or people who bought single-day tickets for Sunday, nor did it offer refunds for people that bought VIP meet and greet tickets through the Capulet Fest website. We will continue to apply pressure on the promoters to do the right thing and hope that you will join us in pursuing the festival to issue refunds to all those who deserve them. Direct criticism toward the festival and promoters from one of the headline bands. Nothing More was not the only one either. As the festival weekend came, the lineup lost a significant number of bands along with Sunday being scrapped. After the festival weekend, the passive-aggressive statement on Capulet Fest socials was posted, and now the socials have gone quiet with posts being deleted. It's looking like they took the remaining money they had from online tickets, as well as unpaid amounts to bands, crew, vendors, venue, etc., and are now allegedly in hiding. It got big enough that the Attorney General of Connecticut got involved fast and was not too happy with what happened.
I gotta tell you, nothing makes me more angry than seeing people in our state getting ripped off. And I'm afraid that's what happened with the Capulet Music Festival. And that's why today I'm announcing an investigation into Capulet Entertainment LLC, which is run by a person we've identified as Esteban Vega. And so we've launched that investigation already. We're in touch with them already, and we're going to get to the bottom of this.
So this was all stuff that's been covered, but I wanted to give a brief summary of this mess with as much factual evidence as possible before we go to someone who was not only at Capulet Fest on Friday and Saturday, but actually performed on Saturday as well. You are about to hear from Colten of Major Moments. The band played on Saturday, and he wanted to give his first-hand account of everything he experienced and knows that happened.
Leading up to Capulet, we were approached a few months ago from our booking agent at the time about performing at Capulet. Obviously, the festival started on the 28th of June. When that rolled around the day before, as most people know at this point, the venue was changed. We started hearing rumors from other bands earlier in the week, but because nothing was confirmed, we couldn't say anything. But we were hearing rumors that the festival was actually flat out canceled. We heard that Thompson, the stagehands that had arrived at Thompson to set up the stage, were no longer setting up said stage. From what we had heard, the rumors were that they had not gotten their fair share of pay, which eventually came to light from people who were, I guess, on said stage crew. A week prior to Capulet, we had been given our advance, what's our stage layout, as well as a plethora of other things that just go along with being a performing artist playing at any festival. We gave our advance, they let us know what load-in time was for the most part, and just a few things. It was a little bit vague compared to most advances. It's not a DWP festival by any means, and it was still fairly new, so we weren't expecting everything to go the smoothest, but we were just asking questions, trying to get clarification, just simple communication. The day after, I want to say Monday, all communication cut. But obviously that was the day that, I believe it was that Tuesday or Wednesday, that is when all communication, at least for us, was cut entirely. We ended up finding out through social media, like many of the fans, that there was a venue change. Now, to go from a venue of 13,000 people to the Webster, it only holds about 1,300, I believe is its cap. So you had an estimated 13,000 tickets sold, and you're now trying to file in that into a 1,300 cap room. On top of that, parking passes, VIP passes, camping passes, all of these things that were initially set at Thompson are now no longer in play. The Webster does not have designated campgrounds. It's not a camping spot. It does not have VIP parking. It's got a parking lot, a small parking lot. Naturally, people are like, all right, well, how's this gonna work? Is the festival still happening? Since we're not having camping accommodations, since we're not having parking accommodations, since a lot of the accommodations just aren't at this point physically feasible, can we get a refund on our money? Which naturally makes sense. Much like us, the promoter, similar to the same way he did it with fans and with us, the promoter never got back to anybody. It's still not gotten back to anybody about refunds on any of these things. If you bought like a 3-day full meet and greet with everybody, 3-day pass, full meet and greet with all like the big bands that are being paid to perform there, as well as VIP parking and stuff like that, it was going to set you back probably $800. A lot of people did do that. And a lot of people definitely were not happy when they learned that they had been not responded back to about their $800. So that kind of sets the stage for everything. Then you get changed the night before. We don't find out through the promoter. We don't get an email about it. We don't get anything like that. We simply see through social media that there is a venue change. This is a little bit scary. But let's go and we'll scope it out. We were really nervous. We didn't want to put our fans in any sort of harmful, detrimental situation, especially if you're trying to cram 13,000 people into a 1,300 capacity venue. Then we get to the actual day of the show, Friday. Not our show, but the first day of Capulet Fest as a whole. So we get up there right when it was opening later that day. So we get up there about 5 o'clock, I want to say. We got in, and that's when it became very apparent that there's a big reason this festival was probably able to not get the funding. The initial venue was already an hour away from the original venue. So people who had booked hotels and booked like flights and stuff like that were already pissed about that. So a lot of them just didn't flat out come. We got in there and realized that the festival was severely undersold. Checking out artists like Until I Wake, starting out, I think they were going on as we were getting in there. The Webster, the main room, because the Webster is divided up in between 2 rooms, the main stage and the side stage. Both were in operation at this point. To see what things were all about, we also decided to go check out the side stage, which is a much smaller stage in the Webster, which I think only that entire room in itself only holds a cap of maybe 250. And that'll be important later. So we go in there and we looked at a few artists. If not for me, we checked out Echo, got to meet those guys, great guys, but realized that it had been severely undersold because even those rooms were not packed with a lot of people. And seeing these big artists who are big radio rock artists, big octane artists, we were definitely skeptical. But it made, on the bright side, no one had to worry about getting suffocated. On the downside, it was very easy to see where the financial burdens had come in. So that takes me to August Burns Red as the headliner. We saw August Burns Red as the headliner and realized that even with the headlining act, with them headlining, the room was still barely you could move too easily for it to be an August Burns Red show, to put it like that. There was a lot of space to move around, move your arms, and if you, obviously for big metalcore shows like that in these venues, you're packed shoulder to shoulder usually, or you should be at least, because they're good shows. And then just as a small side note, the sound quality of everything was atrocious. It may just be that venue, but it was very obvious that their sound people were not exactly prepared for this. And I don't blame them, whether it was a last minute add-on or not. At the end of the night, we were very curious as to what was going to happen with us. So that set the stage for everything. Nothing more had pulled out of Capulet Fest. Sleep Theory had completely pulled out of Capulet Fest. A large amount of other bands with bigger names, Saint Asonia, had pulled out, and it was all around a massive, massive dumpster fire. We needed load-in times. The reason for this is the hours and the doors had been, the door times had been rearranged from their initial time. So they were scheduled in the morning, I believe, for, was it 10 o'clock, 10:30? Somewhere around that time. Somewhere around 10 and 10:30. We were trying to talk with our talent coordinator and the guy who we were put in contact with to get our load-in times figured out, and all around just figure out, hey, when do we need to be here? What do we need to have set up? What can we do so that way by the time we get on, we have plenty of time to go over our in-ears, go over our guitars, go over, sound check everything. Just make sure we have plenty of time to get everything knocked out, because we were the first band on the main stage asking, hey, load-in time, hey, load-in time, hey, you got the load-in time? Didn't hear a single thing. So at this point, we're left in the dark. So we don't have times for anything. We weren't given a load-in time on the advance either. So that raises the next point. We just showed up the next morning. So this is day of show. This is day of us playing. We just showed up the day of the show. We got to Connecticut to Capulet Fest at 9 a.m. We start loading our stuff in at 9 a.m. Mind you, in this venue, they had different places where you could sell merch, like tables and stuff like that. And you would think that they would have it arranged with each different band of saying, hey, because we're playing the same day as Skillet. Skillet is selling merch here. Red, because they were playing as well, Red is setting merch here. Adelita's Way has merch here. And you just go around and you find your table. Nope, first come, first serve. So we're talking, it's about 9 a.m. So we're looking for a stage manager. We want to know, hey, like, what's the deal? Like, when can we go on? When can we get set up? Like, what's the game plan here? And doors are set for 10 a.m. at this point. That didn't happen. They were in the process, Skillet's crew was setting up Skillet when we got in there, which makes sense. They were the headliners. They were backlining everything for all of their gear. About 30 minutes after we got in there at 9, Red's crew comes rolling in, and they start setting up and backlining their stuff. All of this took probably till about 1 o'clock. Mind you, we got there at 9 a.m. For 2 hours, we could not find the stage manager. When we finally found him, and he was finally able to tell us, hey, like, just have your drums set up, get this stuff going. He told us what we needed to get up there and everything. Doors that were supposed to open at 10 a.m. got pushed back to opening at 12 p.m. We still had not set up yet. They were still figuring out Red and Skillet's video wall issues, as well as their audio frequencies and just other tech-based stuff. Our revamp set time got pushed back, and we were told that we were now going to go on. They had to push doors back even more to about 1 o'clock, and we were told that we were going on at 1:30. Okay, that's not a problem. We were supposed to have, if everything gets squared away by 12:30, we have an hour to set up, or even at least 30 minutes. 1:10 comes around. And because there's been a complete lack of communication, we're still waiting for them to give us the all clear to go up on stage. We finally get the all clear at 1:10, and at 1:10, they say, hey, go ahead and get your stuff loaded up. You start at 1:30. That wasn't the original plan. Like, the original plan was we were supposed to be first band on the main stage. So, and from the way things were going, we thought they were going to keep pushing doors back. And that wasn't the case. We didn't have communicated us that we were going up at 1:30. We didn't have, which should have happened. We didn't have communicated that we only had 20 minutes to set up, which it should have been 30. Now we're scrambling to get all of our crap just up on stage, get it set up, and hope and pray that at least our performance is good. When we get up there, we get everything plugged in, and because we only had 20 minutes, 1:30 rolls around. We did a sound check. I played, bass player played, drummer played, everybody played to make sure that all the instruments were working. They did not correlate or have any interest in helping us with wireless frequencies. And for anyone that plays in a band that uses backing tracks or in-ears or listens to a click constantly, obviously the click is important. It keeps us on track, tells us where we are. They didn't bother to coordinate our wireless in-ear monitor frequencies. Me and the other guitar player were on the same frequency. 1:30 starts, first song starts. In-ear starts clicking, and it cuts. And then it comes back on like a few seconds later, and then it cuts. Come to find out, for the entirety of this gig, my in-ears are going in and out, and in and out, and in and out. Same with the other guitar players. We were basically cut off from the rest of the band, hoping and scrambling and praying that, you know, we could make it through and not sound terrible, because we really, for the most part, it was very hard to know where we were at in the song. It was a disaster all around. I've played a lot of gigs in, you know, over the years, played a lot of local gigs, played a few professional gigs. I've never had a gig go so poorly orchestrated as that one. It was an absolute disaster. From what we heard and from what we heard back on video and stuff like that, everything sounded good. No one could really tell that we were struggling and that things were cutting out on my end. So thank goodness for that. But there was, of course, the issue of, you know, in-ears going in and out because of neglect from the audio team, which is infuriating. But again, I can't really put full blame on them. They were just doing their job as best they could on very short notice, it sounds like. We did that, we got off the stage, did merch. We met fans who had flown all across the country to see us, so that was by far the high point of this whole experience. Our festival catering that we were promised was not festival catering at this point. When we were asking about what accommodations would be made with the festival, they were told us that, like, food-wise, they were told us that it would be festival-style catering. There's a picture going around on the internet somewhere of the promoter walking down the street with a cheese pizza in hand. I fully believe that is the same cheese pizza that he fed us. They physically gave us physical meal tickets saying that it warranted 2 slices of cheese pizza and a bag of chips, and that was our meal, which, not complaining, I love pizza. It doesn't feel very festival-style catering. Not, again, like, I'll eat all day long, but it was very frustrating to not have the accommodations that we were told we were gonna have. Like, you know, the promoter, to his credit, was walking around and talking to people, which flabbergasted me, but very daring man right there. Later in the evening, a band called Live Kill was set to play the side stage. They had driven from Florida, from what I gathered. They drove from Florida to play. They got one song in, and then as they played their second song, somebody came in and told them, you got one more song and then you're shut down. Come to find out, Capulet had not paid the rent for the second side building because you have to pay per room, obviously, because you're renting out rooms in order for bands to play. So Capulet did not pay the rent on the second building at that slotted time, and Live Kill from Florida, who had driven from Florida, was no longer able to finish their set. They got one song in, and then they shut the gates on that side of the venue. If that's not a dumpster fire, I don't know what is. All in all, man, it was a really bad experience. A lot of the lows were very low. There were some highs, though, minimal, but there were some highs that made it all you know, fantastic. Again, we had some fans who had been dying to see us, who flew from all over the country. We got to hang out with people. We got to meet people who we love listening to. So we thought after the day was over with that the firestorm had ended, that we were done, that everything was locked, done, finito, where we can finally put this behind us. And Capulet most certainly needs to be held responsible. The people who are at fault need to be held responsible. People should be getting their money back wholeheartedly, need to be issuing refunds. We're all really sad about, we really wanted to give everyone as best a show as we could, and I know all the other bands that were there wanted to do the same, as well as all the vendors did. I think a lot of this falls back onto a very small handful of people for why this was so disorganized.
Thank you, Colten, for sending me this info. Major Moment is great. They have songs on SiriusXM Octane. Check out the music video for Victim in the info card and the video description. Now, I want to address some of the things Colten said. First, leading up to the festival, at least a few bands heard the festival was canceled and that some bands had not been paid their advance. That's bad communication and shady, already starting off bad. Many bands found out at the same time as the fans that the venue had been downgraded to a club, and that's pretty awful. Not just the fans trying to figure out their plans, but think about the groups and bands performing and their crews trying to figure out logistics, performing over an hour away from they were originally thought and not having nearly enough space to cram all the bands and crews and vendors in the same lots. August Burns Red was the headliner on day one, and the venue still was not filled and the staff were not prepared to have a show. I'm willing to bet they were told last minute that Capulet Fest was happening, but that's just my logic. I have no proof of that last part. Major Moment not being told when their load-in time was to perform on the main stage on Saturday, and they were opening the stage, is beyond unprofessional. The whole day kind of starts with that opening band, and the schedule rides on that. Major Moment just had to show up early and hope for the best. Good for Major Moment, because I would have not showed up at all. The merch table being first come, first serve to set for table and wall space is a recipe for a fist fight to break out. I'm glad the bands were all friendly with each other, because that could have turned out so much worse. The door opening was 3 hours late, and the stage manager could not be found for hours. When finally found, Major Moment found out they had 20 minutes to get their gear on stage, checked, and ready to perform. Major Moment couldn't even get the house crew to confirm everything was set with in-ears and connections. Nice. Festival catering was 2 slices of cheese pizza and some chips. That was brought in by the promoter himself. I'm gonna be honest, that is actually more than I expected considering everything else that has happened so far. The band Live Kill actually having their audio and lights killed during their live set is the cruelest form of irony.
We are live at Capulet Fest. We got into our second song.
They shut us the down?
And they shut it down, bro. Security comes in, says the dude didn't pay the rent, and made everybody leave. There it is. Second song. Came in. Out.
The band drove up from Florida for that. That's awful. And the fact that Capulet didn't pay for both rooms in the venue is stupid, but also the venue saying screw you and all the people already there, it's also pretty cruel. It's everyone in Connecticut just awful. This was all stuff that we know happened thanks to Colten and many others seeing it in back and on stage, along with vendors getting owed lots of money, bands not getting their agreed on payment, and many fans not getting the full show they paid for at the venue they planned on attending to see a lineup that wasn't even close to what the lineup that happened. I'm glad the band was able to make the best of a bad situation and so many positives out of negatives and meeting so many fans and getting to actually perform and network with other groups. Now we still have many news outlets in Connecticut trying to follow up on what the scam is currently.
I'm here for the fans of Capulet and I'm here for the people that got ripped off. But man, I want people to understand this is not okay. This wasn't like sort of like a small niche thing, right? This was a big deal. And people were promised a big festival. What I'm really concerned about is the next time they do this, someone's gonna get hurt. If you know you have a problem and you know you can't deliver, you've gotta let people know. And you can't keep selling tickets and saying, no, it's fine. Just show up and it'll be all good. You can't do that.
With the promoters going quiet and deleting social media posts, the only way fans are going to get an owed refund is the typical ways. If you paid with a credit card, file a claim. There's enough evidence about Capulet Fest now for credit card companies to pay you money spent, and then the credit card companies can go after Capulet Fest LLC and the promoters involved. To wrap up, I want to point out the shady practice with music festivals is not a new thing, but it's happening on bigger scales more frequently in the past few years, and that's shocking. Blue Ridge was a much bigger disaster in 2023 than Capulet, but that does not mean Capulet still was not a dumpster fire. In closing, I do hope this is not a yearly trend where we talk about what awful festival screwed fans, bands, crews, vendors, and more out of a massive amount of time and money. It sounds like a joke, but it's becoming a yearly tradition now. I really don't want to do this next year where I have to talk about people getting taken advantage of for the act of wanting to see live music one weekend. That's not asking too much.